Welcome to the Journey of Self. This is your coach Manaz Samja. In this particular series, my intention is to assist you with awareness and knowledge so that you find clarity and direction in your difficult times. The of our today's session is categories of control, internal versus external locus of control. Friends, have you ever wondered when we go through a difficult time or are facing hardship or going through a crisis? Control plays a pivotal role in it. We may never have given a due observation or paid attention to this fact, but control and the very concept of this plays a pivotal role in the way we deal with our difficult times. Control may not mean the same for everyone. From a literal meaning, if you look up on Google or run an internet search, you will find control means the power and ability to make somebody or something do what you want. And losing control is a very unsettling experience, especially for those who are control freaks. Now, while I explain you this concept of control, let's also where it comes in from. So control, as I said, may not mean the same for everyone. It stems from the belief and perception we hold about it since our childhood or our growing years. It's part of our belief. We adapt either an external locus of control or an internal locus of control, depending on what are the meanings and belief we attach to this term control. So what is the internal or external locus of control? Well, an external locus of control is where we contribute the outcomes to external circumstances, wherein an internal locus of control is where we tend to experience a sense of responsibility over the outcomes. Actually, there is no right or wrong way of looking at it because since each one of us are different, we have our own unique life experiences. We may adapt either of it when we try to study control or perceive it specifically during a time of crisis. So, for example, let's say a person has a huge farmland and the yield, or they have an orchard, and the yield is not good enough this particular season. People with an external tendency control, where they attribute outcomes to external circumstances, may look at their farmland and attribute everything that resulted in the low yield, which is to do with external circumstances like the weather, which is beyond control, the climate, or the ongoing climatic changes, or for that matter, any other reason through which they attribute that these are beyond me, and hence, if certain things have gone wrong or I am in a difficult situation, I have very little control over these. People with these tendencies usually and often feel helpless and are more prone to slip into anxiety or depression. And going back to an example of somebody with an internal locus of control, where they tend to experience a sense of responsibility over their outcomes, are those who would not literally feel everything is out of control, rather take the right means, do whatever best that they could do, and then towards the end, whatever the outcome is, which always has an element of lacking in control, would then work towards whatever one could do it. Internal locus of control is something we all practice. in order to achieve a particular goal or meet a deadline, or for that matter, going back to that farmland example, having a good yield, when one exercise an internal locus of control, the person in charge would look into where else and what means one could do to give their best shot, so that they experience a sense of responsibility over the outcomes with a more positive approach. However, beyond that, when outcomes may still show some variance, they also do understand that we do not exercise a complete control over anything. So, friends, the call to action for you is list down things in your life which brings you the highest amount of stress or frustration, or you feel you get into an anxious mode. While you list them down, towards a right hand side, create another column and reflect on every item you have written, every statement you've written, which brings you a lot of stress. And towards each of it, understand which category you fall into. If, for example, let me share my example here. My goal, like what really brings me, used to bring, no longer prevalent, but my father's ill health. So if I put that, I'm like concerned and worried about his deteriorating health, on the right hand side column, I would either put it as, am I exercising an external locus of control or an internal locus of control? Externally, wherein he was a chronic heart patient and there were things beyond my control, but I would always attribute it to external circumstances. Like he would smoke a lot, he would indulge in food which were more processed and oily and fried stuff. So my own reflections and how in a given difficult situation, which brings me a lot of stress and anxiety, understanding my approach will help me also understand what could be the right way of dealing with the crisis. But before we deal with the crisis, well, I will share with you in our upcoming session, we need to also understand what sort of an approach we exercise over control. If it is a difficult launch of project, a complex project, and I have a deadline to meet, what approach do I adopt here? Am I internally exercising an internal locus of control or an external locus of control? When I find myself anything that gives me too much of frustration, let's say we are stuck in a traffic jam, that's something that get onto our nerves. So what approach do we adapt? Internal locus of control, where we experience that you're taking the right means, a sense of responsibility. But beyond this, if there is a signal that does not signal you to move ahead and you are stuck along with hundreds of, there's nothing much you could do. But if you constantly bicker and lay blame reasons or attribute it to external circumstances. So the government is pathetic, our roads are not wide enough, or the car is pathetic, or the people are, then we constantly stay in a state of stress. So this call to action is only for you to take the first step, wherein you identify what really brings you a lot of stress. And once you identify that, just write in a column next to it, which there's no right or wrong way of doing it. We're just identifying our own approach towards control. And this identification actually will help us then understand where we got this concept from and how much do we really use that and whether it is beneficial to us or not. So go ahead and do this, and I'll talk to you soon.